Hey, how you doing? It's Clayton here from howtodrawcomics.net and the How to Draw Comics Academy. In this lesson, we are going to be learning about how to draw with gesture. Now, why is this important? Well, if you are an artist of any level, beginner, intermediate, advanced, you may have well run into the problem where your characters, for one reason or another, just wind out looking a little stiff, like they're zombies walking around with rigor mortis, lifeless. They don't have that energy, that movement that we're really looking for when it comes to drawing dynamic comic book characters. Well, gesture actually allows us to be able to avoid all of that. It brings our characters to life. It gives them more power and fluidity within their movement. And in this lesson, I'm going to show you how to do it and how to practice it. Without further ado, I say we jump straight into this. Get your pencils and your sketchbook or your favorite digital drawing application ready, and let's draw with gesture. Let's say that we want a character that's coming straight toward us, like a Superman style pose. Okay, we've got the chest there, the belly here. Now you'll notice that as I keep this gestural and loose, what kind of lines am I using? Are they light or are they heavy? Look at the characteristics of those lines. Well, they're certainly not heavy. They're not super dark. They're light. They're also kind of fluffy. You know, they're confident. They got confidence, that's for sure. There's an emphasis of shape. There's an exaggeration of the basic building blocks that I'm using to build out this character. Can you see that? So exaggeration of the primitive shapes, the primitive representation of the human body that you decide to use for the structure of your character is going to be something that you want to utilize to the max during this initial preliminary stage of the drawing. Now, of course, we're integrating things like foreshortening into this as well, but if you're not experienced with foreshortening, don't worry, that's totally fine. We'll do a standing straight up and down character in just a moment so that you can get an idea as to how you would use gesture for even a more orthographical front, side, and back view. But for now, just to demonstrate how you'd create a more dynamic pose through utilizing gesture, I want to show you how it's done on something that's just a little bit more complex than that. So we've got one leg that's coming forward toward us, another leg that's going away from us, and look at the shape here that's being used. Look at that. That's the outer contour there. But here's the other thing that I want you to take a look at. Look at the overall path that this leg takes. Can you see that consistent curve that it is complying to as we lead it down from the hip to the base of the foot? Now, you might refer to this as the gesture. You might refer to it as the line of action. And then, of course, we've also got this leg. Check that out. Boom. Another very gestural trajectory that's very obvious in its movement that it is traveling upon. Okay, so the overall leg and the overall body is following a particular path of movement. But on top of that, so are the outer contours, so are the shapes themselves of each part of the body. And so a lot of gesture is actually related to shape. And then, on top of it, it's related to the way in which those shapes move. So to me, gesture is something that applies to more than one thing. It's not just the pose of the character. It's not just the movement. It's also the shape of that character. Okay, let's continue the pose that we're working on here. We've got an arm that's going to be coming forward toward us. And you can see how I'm laying down lines that are sort of swift, curvaceous. They are curvaceous at this stage. So these are the kind of lines that you want to be thinking about using. Look at this fist that I'm just drawing in. Does that even look like a fist? It doesn't, but I'm building onto it, and I'm just trying to capture an interesting shape for it. You can see that we've captured the spirit of the pose there. And all that movement within the lines, okay, you can see it. It looks like the lines are vibrating, doesn't it? So we've got these exaggerated shapes that are represented with vibrating lines that are light and that are loose, that are relaxed. And the more that we can capture those characteristics early on within the line work, the more they will be preserved as we refine it and bring it through to a more polished presentation. Because inevitably, this character is going to, well, the character will stiffen up at a certain point. That's just what happens. And a lot of the time, if you've ever tried your hand at inking over the top of pencils, you'll notice that sometimes the inks just don't look as good as the pencils. And why is that? Because they should, right? I mean, that's the final rendition of the artwork. Well, the reason that the inks are sometimes underwhelming, especially if you're dealing with an inker, or you are an inker that's not as experienced and doesn't know how to capture the energy from the drawing, the reason for that is because what you're dealing with is a refined representation of the art. And there's tricks to actually making sure that even as you refine it, you're still able to capture the same amount of energy that we're seeing here in the basic pose. And the other important thing here to consider is that you don't want to be taking too much time to knock out this pose. Okay, you want to keep your hand moving. It's all about momentum when it comes to gesture. Because if you start to overthink it, guess what? Overthinking is another symptom, or it's going to be another thing that leads to a stiff looking drawing. So don't overthink it in the beginning. Just chill out and have some fun. Focus on the movement of the lines, of the movement of the character. And then check this out. Once you've got that basic figure down, you can go in there and you can do a little bit of tweaking to the major shapes, but you can also start to add in some gestural representations of the anatomy that you're going to want to include in this character. So you can get the abs kind of placed in there. You can get the neck down. And the gestural approach that we're taking here continues onward into the rest of the figure drawings development. So that's an example of gesture drawing. What I'm talking about when I say that we want to incorporate gesture into our art as much as possible. Well, that wraps up our lesson on gesture drawing, how to use gesture to increase the amount of movement and energy and power behind the poses of your characters. That was a heck of a lot of fun. I hope that you enjoyed it. Now, I know that gesture can be a complex topic to tackle. It's hard to get your head around. It's difficult to practice in a sense as well because of the required understanding that it takes to fully comprehend what it means to incorporate gesture into your character drawings. But start with a single line. That's where it all begins, is with a single line, because gesture is captured within those lines. And so if you can lay down just a simple line with gesture, give it a curve, give it some lightness, some flow, practice drawing the S curves if you need to, the C curves and the eyes, and really try to get a feel just on that level for how gesture might manifest within your character poses. Because in the end, it's those very lines that are going to make up drawings of every level of complexity. We use line to capture them, right? And if gesture is captured within line, then it makes sense that forget about the subject matter, keep it simple in the beginning. If you're in those early stages of development as an artist, you don't have to practice the most complex thing that comes to mind. You don't have to practice characters. You don't have to practice backgrounds or anything like that. Just go with a simple line to start off with. then go to shapes, then go to maybe 3D form. But of course, the skeleton figure drawing model is also going to be something that really helps you out, specifically when it comes to incorporating gesture into characters. Good luck with it. Make sure that you put this stuff into action, get those practice points built up so that you can fully integrate what you've just watched throughout this lesson into not just your understanding, but also into the way in which you execute your own work. Thanks again for joining me, and until next time, keep on drawing. I'll catch you in the next lesson. Bye-bye for now.